Virtual reality definitely seems to be the subject of conversation here recently, especially with the Meta Quest Pro that just released and PlayStation VR 2, which is right around the corner, coming early in 2023. And it's got me excited and honestly makes me believe that we are going to be seeing the next generation of virtual reality, like Sony states here. They're going to be supporting a 4K HDR display and enhanced comfort with the headset, which will be much appreciated versus their last headset. And honestly, it does look like it'll be at least a little bit more comfortable. I'm sure it'll still be big. I mean, it still looks kind of big and it might be a little chunky, but I'm sure it'll have a better head feel going forward. But they're bringing in a lot of tech, which really looks like that's going to be a premium option here going forward. They're bringing in their eye tracking, which they've been able to show that it follows then your eye movements and able is to enhance your game that way, and outside headset tracking with 4 cameras on the front, better to map your positioning inside the game. Definitely a total shift away from their original headset where it followed off of a camera that you'd mount onto your TV. It definitely was more of an introductory level, I'd say, headset, even though it still came in at a price point of, I believe, $399, but it was still a lot cheaper of an option back then, especially when it was compared to like the Vive, which I believe was like $800. It got a lot of people, I think, into VR for the first time, and is now going to be a big jump here for them going forward. They're even adding headset feedback, where there's vibration motors in the headset itself. They're bringing in their Tempest 3D audio, and then their controllers, their futuristic-looking controllers, do look like, well, they will be a massive step up from at least the PlayStation 4's controllers that they're using, actually bringing in the joysticks and things like that, including their haptic feedbacks in their triggers, which is going to be great, and also finger touch detection, which is going to just add another element of display, another element of feel in the games, and it kind of seems pretty exciting to go over. I do really think that this will definitely bring us into another generation of VR, which is exciting because the PlayStation VR itself kind of followed a steady track on sales, but as far as we know, as of January of 2020, that they've only kind of reached 5 million sales. I'm sure that they've sold a little bit more past that, but that seems to be all the information that we have is ever since 2020. And that's not that great of a conversion rate, especially when you consider that the PlayStation 4 itself has sold over 100 million units. But I do believe it's probably because of that kind of more introductory level of VR, and it didn't take itself maybe too seriously, just tried to get out into the market. And I do think that with what we have going forward here, a lot of more people will be turning their eye to it and bringing more games to the system itself. I do think that's where they started with a good launch title for the original PlayStation VR with games kind of flowing into it, and then it just kind of tampered off, and I do believe people kind of lost interest into the system. And where going forward, it looks like that Sony itself is actually really supporting some games here going forward, bringing Horizon Call of the Mountain to the system, as well with some others that they're kind of teasing here going forward as well, which is great, just as long as they can keep that support going throughout and maybe bring more games like VR Chat that will just have a dedicated fan base where people just always feel free to log on. And also, we're kind of in more of a phase right now where a lot more people are looking into VR, especially since Quest is, not Quest anymore, that Meta is pushing it so hard as well and going forward and gaining a lot more traction that way. But they're not the only ones. We also have Nintendo. What's Nintendo doing? Who knows? They brought out the Nintendo Labo, which was a good also introductory point. I do think that they started to fail and just ends their support for it, even though they could have taken it as another fantastic introductory point into VR for a lot of people. There's a lot of Switch owners, and especially if all they have to do is just buy a headset and plop it in, and you can have VR systems just based on the Switch with a low quality screen and everything like that. But I do think that would get a lot more people excited for VR. I was really hoping that they'd kind of introduce us with this cardboard stand and then ditch that and then eventually give us an actual headset, but we aren't at that point. Maybe for a Switch 2, maybe they'll continue to expand on it. In fact, I'd welcome it. I'd be more than happy if they did, assuming that we do have a Switch 2, which I can't imagine that Nintendo is going to disband the Switch at this moment in time. But I would like to see them put their hand in the ring here again and release something and actually more so support it going forward. I do think that there is potential with a really easy introductory system to move forward and make waves in the VR space. And as stated, the Meta Quest 2 definitely kind of dominates the field right now. In fact, they last recorded numbers, which I'm sure they're past it, they sold 15 million units, which is definitely good for VR. It's a new, kind of technology where people aren't quite sold on it just because you can't really tell by watching videos on what it's going to be. You have to put on a headset yourself and move forward to it. And that's where I think a lot of people are at. It's hard to justify the cost when they don't quite know what's going on. But with the Meta Quest 2 pushing that 15 million sales mark, then it definitely gets it into more people. More people are talking about it. More people are going forward, and it's a good product that's got people actually looking at VR and going for it. And honestly, my personal opinions, when I purchased the the PlayStation VR system for the PS4, I really did thoroughly enjoy it. And I do see its potential here going forward, and I don't think it's going to slow down. I do think that, honestly, we're still in, the birthing phase of VR right now. It's hard to say that it's going along, even though there has been some massive leaps, and with this Sony PlayStation VR 2, we are going to be leaping forward here again, but it still seems like we're growing with it. But honestly, I see our future embracing VR more at just introductory levels all the time, making it easy, especially when, say, like the Meta Quest Pro maybe eventually can trickle down in price and make its way into just more just the consumers and business level of things. More people will get used to that and then eventually look into gaming. But honestly, with the new PlayStation VR 2, I do think that they are going to open the market for a lot more people. Now, where's this going to be priced? I can't imagine it would be below, the $499. It will probably push up, I don't even know, to maybe $799. I don't know if it'll go past that. I'm sure that'll kind of be our range. That will be the main factor of putting some people off, but we've definitely seen headsets at that price point going forward. I know some people might not want an accessory that costs more than the PlayStation itself, but definitely with what they're going for here, it might cost a pretty penny. I don't know really if it would cost that much all the way up to that $799, but I do believe that we will be looking at like a $499 system at least. But it does have me excited. Like I said, I am ready to pick up the PlayStation VR 2. I do hope to grab it on launch and give my opinions and see what it's like. I kind of am embracing that VR future, not for primary things, but it is an amazing secondary system to really enhance gaming and social life in general. So what are your opinions on VR? Am I wrong with this? Is VR just a fad? Is it going to die out like 3D TVs used to? Am I just caught up into the hype right now? Why don't you let me know in the comments? And hey, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.